Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. Thank you again for joining track 2 of Big Data Days 2023. We are very fortunate to have Trista. Trista will just join us today to host track 2. She is actually the CTO and co-founder of SphereEx, and we are glad to have her here to talk a little bit more on a very unique topic on building a big data business around open source. Interesting. So let's give it to Trista. Hi, Trista. Thank you for joining us. How are you today? Trista, you're still there? Sorry, we're having some difficulty technically. Just make sure we get Trista back online. Hi, Trista. You're there? I apologize. We're having a little bit of connectivity issue with Trista. Trista, sorry about that. We are having a bit of a issue with connection with Trista. We'll reach out to Trista. So while we are waiting for Trista to get back and join us, so today Trista will be talking about this topic called building a big data business around open source. So she will be focusing on the guidance for entrepreneur or even open source contributor who want to build a big data business around their successful open source project. So she will share her experience on how we can go about doing this, right? So, and how by using a community-driven kind of a development and the use of some powerful tools like Apache ShardingSphere or Hadoop to make sure that those projects that you do using open source is actually something that is beneficial, that can be commercially viable. And also Trista will also share her experience on how by doing this community sharing to use open source, you can actually take on more projects and actually do more for your client. Hi, Trista. Welcome back. Sorry, you had some...
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hi. So I just did a bit of introduction on the topic. So I'm going to hand over to you now. Again, thank you again for joining us for talking about this topic. Trista, could I just trouble you to share the screen again on the presentation slides so that our audience can actually look at the details as you guide them through this topic?
All right, sure, no problem. Wait a moment. Let me share it.
Yeah.
All right, so does everything work well?
Sorry, Trista, I'm still up. There it is. It's coming out now. All right, brilliant. Okay, over to you, Trista. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. All right, thanks, John. Okay, so hello, everyone. This is Trista. I'm so happy to give this talk around about the open source, about the tech, about the big data, and about the business. So today, like this title side, I will share some my experience around all of the keywords because I think that actually, yeah, it's a hot topic. But during this journey, I really found there are some tips or suggestions I can share and I hope it's helpful for you. I mean, yeah. So that's the introduction about myself. And I'm the Trista Pan, the SphereEx co-founder and the CTO. Also because I spend a lot of my time in Apache Software Foundation and open source community. So now I'm the Apache member and the Apache incubator project mentor. And now I'm mentoring 3 incubator projects to give some the tips and helps to their tech community or open source community. Yeah. So sometimes I will post some articles about my area. I use like the big data, the distributed database or cloud databases, or about the open source business stuff on my Twitter or LinkedIn. So today, in our QA session, I will answer some questions. But later on, if you have more questions, we can talk with each other on my LinkedIn or Twitter. Yeah, so let's get started with today's talk. I will introduce the following atoms. For example, I will give some the brief introduction about the open source, and we can know that what's the open source and what's the value of open source, especially for the individuals. You are a student or employees, and you want to know how to leverage it to make it to become helpful for your career or for your interest, for your skill side, or for your mind side. And later on, I will give some introduction about the open source monetization. It's a big topic. I'm a guest today. I have no enough time to give a detailed introduction, but let us see. And nice, at the last stage, I will enter into the QA session and I will answer some of the questions. Yeah, so that's about the agenda of today. All right, so what's the open source? Actually, I don't want to give too much introduction about the open source because it's another technical area. I just want you to know that open source or open source project or open source community, it's very similar with your Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn because we come together just for we want to do something or we want to share something, we want to get some support, right? So we come here and we share something. And for in terms of the open source, and here the open source, it's the material for us to modify, to use, right? Or we want to use this open source project, we want to get some help from this open source project or community. So we come here, right? But the object, we make it become the open source program or project, right? All the stuff. It's not about the picture or your life sharing, not about that one, but about your career, your professional, or the open source, right? Because we want to make this community or open source run well, then we need to use some the rule, right? We need to have some limitation. That's the license. We need to use some license to make this project or make this all of the source code is used in the good way, right? And next part, I want to let you know that we want to make it become run mature or while. So we have the foundation. They have the mature hierarchy or system to let all the contributors or users or committers here to cooperate with each other while. So that's the function of the like for example, the Apache Software Foundation or where Linux Foundation, right? All the foundation, that's their purpose. Yeah, so that's the open source. You know that we just change another platform for our career, for our professional, right? So it's very similar. The next part, I gave this open source values. It's just an overview for different roles or for different people. Maybe you're a student, you're an employee, you're the CEO of the company, or you're the maintainer or committer of the community. So because you have the different hats, then you have the different purpose to be here. I mean, to tend the open source or get involved here. So today I will give more introduction about as a student role or the employee role, because I believe most of our participants are student or employee, right? And for the company part or community part, I mean, I will just give a nice introduction about them, because you know, if you're the company, why you want to open source your project, right? Because maybe like I list here, the company want to get the revenue or have the good reputation or make people believe that they're a good tech company, right? Or make people believe that their project is so good because they have a lot of good tech open source project for people to use, right? So, and also that can help them save a lot of the marketing, the cost. So that's the purpose, I mean, for the company to get involved in the open source. And for the community, because you know the community, most of them are non-profit. So their purpose, they just hope that this community, this project can be used by more and more people, and they hope to get more and more attention, and more people come here to do some contribution to this community or to make this project become better. So that's their core purpose. I mean, most of them are just for fun or for interesting or motivated by the tech or by the new technology. And for student, employee, today, later on, I will give more introduction about the two parts, because I know that you want to get the answer from this presentation, and I want to my best to answer your question or help you solve some of the concerns about the open source, because I believe if we want to spend or valuable time in somewhere, that means we think it's worthy or effort and time, right? So today I will first to answer the question that why we should to put our effort or time in open source projects or community. And then I will give some the tips or suggestions for you and how to be part of that. Yeah. So it's clear now. For the students, I know that most of the students, I found that currently more and more students, they are willing to attend open source program or projects because they really found that all of the activities can help them build their resume, right? For example, I can give them the cases here, because you know that if I just tell you, hey, there are some the benefits as a student to attend the open source, maybe you don't believe what I said. I just want to give some the evidence or give the cases around us. They are happened in the real world, and you can really know that what the meaning of the benefits. The first one, prepare for your resume. If you log in your linking and you will get some of the feed, I found that more and more students, they will do some of the show off stuff. For example, they attend some of the Google Summer Code or other the open source project, and they get the badge from some of the open source foundation, and they will tell others that, hey, you can see here, I really did a lot of work in this area, in this tech area. That means I have the capabilities to do work for your company, right? So all of the activities can help them to make their resume looks decent. That's very important, because for me and now our company are hiring some of the employees or interns, we'll just give a look. If we found that this guy, he spent some of the time in the open source project and which are related to our area, then we're welcoming such guys to join our company, because we think that he already learned the real world skills, and they have a lot of experience in our area. That means it's really have such skills. It's not just they say they have such skills. All of your activities can be seen on the GitHub or at your resume, that make them looks decent and looks convenient to us. That's the first the purpose. The second one, that just for interest, or want to protect their skills, because as a student, maybe we have no enough time or enough chance to get in touch with the real world skills or practice. So we just get some knowledge from our class, from our book, or from some guiding, but you need to do it or practice by yourself. It's real like today's presentation. I share my experience. It's just like a book, the texting stuff. But for you, you need to practice by yourself. Like the cooking, right? You pick up some the recipe, but if you don't do by yourself or you cook by yourself, then you cannot master it. It's just a paper or just a testing for you. I mean, it doesn't work and meaningless. So that's another, I mean, here the same, they want to protect all of the real world skills. They will use them in their career in the future. So open source project or open source community is a good place for them to protect their skills and create their skill site. Because you know that why all of the open source projects can exist. Why? Because people want to use it. Why people want to use it? Because this project can help them to solve their issues in their production environment. So all of the projects, open source projects, are useful for their real world environment. So these open source projects are so popular, right? Or people love it. If you join here or join such the open source community, that means you can be updated and you can learn the new skills that people will use it in their production environment, right? So here I want to give this case. This one, it's this guy. It's the committer of our open source community, and this guy comes from what the hell? Sorry, I can't hear. But it's the committer of ShardingSphere, this open source Apache community. And I met him in the Google Summer Code program, and he really did a good job for this program. But maybe at the beginning, he just want to find an internship and want to get some the scholarship. So he applied for Google Summer Code, and I was the mentor for him for this project. And so at the beginning, he actually knew nothing about what's the database and what's the SQL. I mean, how to deal with the SQL in the databases. We need to pass the SQL. We need to understand this SQL and use it to get the data from your distributed base, right? So at the beginning, this committer he knew nothing about how to handle SQL internally in the databases. But I asked the mentor, I taught him a lot, and he really did a good job. And at last, he succeeded in his GSOC program. And also, we found he really did a good job. So we vote this guy to become the committer of Apache Software Foundation. And we also invite him to write a book review for our new book. So by joining Apache ShardingSphere or open source project, this guy, he became the committer and he had that title. He protect his, he learned some of the new skills, and he also can write some of the posts about this database, about the distributed database, about the tech area. So, I mean, during this journey, he really got a lot of stuff from the open source experience. And another committer I want to introduce here, it's another role, because you know that in open source project or community, we're not just only welcome the developers. No, because community, it's made of different roles, right? We also hope that someone can help us deal with the document, the translation, or website, right? Or just to do the evangelist, all of the work. So different roles can play play a big role in different area, in different open source projects. So this role, she come here and just to do some of the document stuff, like fix some of the typos or write some of the new post or write some of the guiding for the whole community or for the whole projects. And later on, I found that this role, because he do a lot of the document stuff and he know more about this open source, about the distributed database, at least know about all of the concept of the distributed database, right? So we voted this girl to be the committer of Apache Software Foundation. And I believe she really gets a lot of experience or knowledges about the distributed area. So that's another case I want to share here. If you give a look at this page, I mean, that's our team of this whole community. You found there are different cases here. They maybe at the beginning, they force some the goal to come here, but at least I believe they really get a lot from the journey because, here, we really appreciate their work, their contribution. So we will do our best to help them, give their hand or guiding, or just teach something to let them know what's the distributed database or what's the AI, right? All of the stuff. So it's, you can see in the open source community, it's not just about the contribution or just the use such the projects. It's your mentoring relationship between newcomers and veterans. So you have more chance to create the connection with the professionals. I mean, that's the good benefit because during this journey, you found you know more, and that will make you, see more about this world. That's one of the reason why I love open source. I can give another case that this boy, he's the Chinese, and now he's in New Zealand for his master degree because when he knows more about the open source, about the distributed database, and he found that he needs a degree or he wants to find a period to improve himself. So he just choose to leave the Korea for a while and to another country for a master. So, just by know more about the open source or by using the open source community to know more about this world, it maybe can give you a chance to make you make another decision to choose another type of your life or another new decision. So I think that's more useful or helpful for life, for career. All right, so that's about the student part. The next part about employee. Why employee? Because you know that employee, they have a lot of stuff for your life, your career, their relationship, their family, their children. If open source is not so attractive, why do all of the people need to spend extra time in open source community or in open source project? So here I also list some of the reasons or goals, some of them are shared with the last slides, but there are some of the new one. For example, there are the new skills or interests the same as the last one, the students page. Because here I can give this case, and it's also the committer of our open source community, and this guy, his job it's working for AI company, but he's interested in database. So he come here, he talked with me, and he said he want to learn more about the databases. So, in my private time, I really talk a lot with him, and he really did his best to contribute to this project. So during this collaboration with each other, and this committer, he at the beginning saying he knew nothing about the neutral language handling, because neutral language handling, especially about a database. And at last, he mastered all of the skills about this area, and he can become the mentor for others to guide the newcomers to do the similar tasks. So that means he mastered these new skills. Because you can just imagine that we stay at our workstation for 1 year, 2 year. Every day you just meet the same person here, your same colleague around you, right? Maybe one day your company is out of the business. You realize, wow, I get stuck in here and I don't know what is happening in this area, in my area, and what is popular nowadays. Because you always, meet the same guys, do the same work every day. But if there is a chance, you can join an open source foundation or a community. That means you can meet new friends. You can create some new connections with different people, especially some veterans or professionals connection. And also, you can get some feedback. You can know what is happening now and what people are talking about. So that can, open the window for you to learn more about the new technology and the hot stuff. And maybe that will make you, have another decision. Oh, okay, maybe nowadays I need to learn more about the cloud native or about the macro service, about the Kubernetes, right? So you will not just focus on the current stuff every day, same. Every day same, so boring. So that's the magic of an open source community or project, because that, like I said, it's just like a platform for you to meet new guys or new people. If you want to share, if you are a gamer, you like the game, you will find a platform to share the game, and there you can know more about the new game. It's similar here, the same cases, but the object is become your professional, your career, your area, right? So that's for the employees. That's maybe the main reason why we want to attend open source, why we need to spend extra or private time in the open source project. Then another one, you can get some the career chance. It's true, like a list here for take him for example. He now is the head of our database internal team, and he's head developer. So why did we have him? Because at the beginning, this guy is just a contributor in Apache ShardingSphere, this open source community, for 2 years. And later on, that we keep in touch with each other and we talk a lot. And I found he's really love open source, and he hope that he can have a chance to work for the open source company, because some of the guys, they run an open source project or community, and they spend all their time and so that they need to stay at home and no salary and just for the entries, so they maintain open source, but gradually found they have to give it up. Why? Because they have no salary to support themselves or their family. But now that we found that this guy really love open source and he get familiar with our open source project, so we're willing to hire him to become the employee of our company to do the same things when he do some of the contribution to this open source community. So that's another case. We know each other in the open source project, and we found that he loved open source and he has such the skill set we need here, right? So we are so welcoming him to join our company because I mean, for the companies, they're so difficult for us to find the right person to work for the company. And we cannot just, I mean, look at all of the resume every day and to pick up some guys to come here, do the interview, 1 round or 2 rounds. But here, the open source give us a platform to hire some the people. That's the efficient way to do the talent hunting. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's a good case, right? Another one, maybe this case, it's also the contributor of this community. He now is working for Tencent. Maybe it's so famous for his gaming company. Why did he come here? Because he met some of the issues in his production environment. So he want to find some the open source solution to help him solve the production issues. And then because this project is so famous, so popular, so he come here and want to seek for some helps. And then he use this project in his a company. And that means it can use this open source to help him to solve some issues in the production environment. So that's another case because why open source is so popular, because nobody want to create the tools or projects from zero, right? If you just do the same project with others and from zero. So they want to leverage open source power to help them quickly solve the issues in their production environment. And if you can attended some of the open source projects, that means you put more tools into your toolbox, and in the future, you found that you encounter some issue, and you can pick up some of the open source tool from your toolbox to help you solve some of the issues. All right, so I gave a lot of time to introduce the employee and the students' benefits from the open source, because for me, I mean, if I decide to do something, I needed to pursue it myself to spend the time and effort here. And now I believe that I really totally give the most of the benefits about the open source to you. And if you think that, yes, it sounds attractive, then the next page, I will give the introduction about the how. Because we really have no enough time to introduce more. Okay, all right. So that's about myself. I mean, for me, I really got a lot title or identification from different organization. The Apache Software Foundation, the AWS Data Hero, or the SphereEx CTO and co-founder. But for me, it's not just a show. It's a journey. I already spent over 7 years in this area for all those stuff. But at the beginning, actually, I didn't realize that the open source have so much benefits or so much values for people. I just think the open source is so interesting because here what I did can be seen by the people from all over the world. right? Because you download them from the GitHub, and this code will show that what's the author for such a spinet of this programming, right? So that really encouraged me to do more, especially in my holidays. Every day I stay at the GitHub and attend the open source project and to do a lot of work. But gradually I found that, yeah, I really get a lot from the open source. That's why I want to share all of it to you. And some people will believe such the idea or not, but I mean, I want to share all of them. At least I guess some people will believe that open source, all the stuff can really be helpful for their career or for their life. Yeah. So the next topic is about how we be part of the open source. I gave the what that here. I give some the key point here. The first one, how to attend a community or organization or open source project. Next one, how to choose it, because it's like how to choose a good game, how to choose a good platform to share my life. The last part is about I give some example for you to consider, because all of the organizations attended their activities, and most of them attend their activities. So I think they're decent for you to start from the zero or your yeah. So the first part, it's about how to be part of the open source. It's simple, I guess, because now you know that about open source. You can just Google it. You can just Google what's the benefit program of open source. Is there any popular open source projects nowadays? Or you can search that database open source project, right? So Google is our best friend. It's not pitch, but here I can give some the method for you. The first one, let's skip the last one. Start your open source company. No, it's a nightmare challenge, I have to say. So skip it. The next one, join an open source company. It's a really good one because some of the big organizations, they open source their project or programming, and that means you can become the employer for such company, and you have the chance to be guided to attend their open source community or project. Yeah, that's a good one, really. And the next one is to search, Google, or like today, you attend such the conference, and maybe you can pick up some of the name from the speakers, and you can just talk with them, talk to the maintainers, and be part of such organizations. Yeah. Or apply for some of the programs. For example, the Google's license app, or such have open source day. They have a lot of the open source programs. You can be there, and sometimes you can get some the merchant, or get some the badge, or get some scholarship, and also get some experience about the open source. And later on, I will give some the name of some the great programs I recommend, and then attend some the same here. Attend some the open source foundation, because like I said, some of the foundations, for example, Apache Foundation, they already running for over 10 years, right? And they have a mature system and a mature document for you to get on board. So, and because they are so popular, so famous, lots of the maintainers, they want to donate their project to such a foundation. That means you can have more chance to meet great project or great communities. So I really recommend, if you know nothing about open source, you can just start with some of the open source projects from the famous open source foundation. And next one, you can just choose some of the projects open sourced by your company. Yeah, because now Twitter or Netflix or Facebook, they will open source their project. So if you think that, oh, that's the companies I want to be there, maybe you can start with your open source project. And gradually, because that gives you a way to keep in touch or to know someone from this company, right? So, yeah, so I mean, that's the way you can be here. But, we have not enough time to give more introduction. And next part, I just gave a brief introduce about briefing about how to choose a project. For example, if you just most of such open source project, they will have their website and have their community introduction or have some statistic on GitHub. You just give a glance there, you can see here, and this project is the Apache Software Foundation, and this project for the distributed base, you consider, are you interested in this area? Or it's related to your career? Yeah. And later on, you can see here, because by use some the metrics, you can know this project, it's a popular or a new one, because a mature community can guide you a lot. But if you just do a bit of the contribution, because it is so popular, there are so many people to be there, so your contribution maybe will not be noticed by these project maintainers. But if it's a growing project, they really hope someone come here to help them to create their community. They will give you more guiding, give you more helps, and will easily notice your contribution here. So by use some the metrics here, you can know what type of such the project or open source community. And you can see here what's the language of the project, and does this project have some of the documents for you to learn more about it? Or do they need a document writer or a translator to be there to help them? Right? So, I mean, the website page, the GitHub, or just Google it, you can know more about this project, and then you can decide to join or not. And here I give some the examples of the good organization or good foundation or good programs. For example, the Apache, the Linux Foundation. Wow, I mean, they're so famous. I mean, everyone know them. So you can just pick of them, just pick one of the programs of such organization. Or Google Summer Code is a good one for students. And also here, this open source day, it's for most for girls to be there to attend the open source tech part. And that different area have their different activities, as India or Asia, they have the open source India or other, for example, the Asia activity or conference for you to choose. There are so many. All right, I mean, we have no enough time, but last, just to give share something about the open source monetization, because it's a big topic. And for me, I'm on the way of this area. And I want to say that the first one is if you have a successful community or project, that doesn't mean you have a successful business. It's a totally different world, right? And for me, as a developer, I'm so happy. As a maintainer, I'm so happy because I don't need to worry about the revenue or the plan or the team building all the stuff. I just focus on the new technology, the open source, the community. But if you with my CTO and co-founder hat, I need to take care more about the business. It's totally different. And I guess I have no time here because I guess Joan is show up. Yeah. So,
I think that's a very detailed and compelling so-called explanation why open source is for us, why you should join, and all that. There's a couple of questions on the Q&A. Unfortunately, we are running very short of time. I'm just going to pick one that has been voted very high. Allow me to project the question first, and I'll read it out to you. The question is from Sebastian. He is actually interested to know, could companies be incentivized or persuaded to make their closed source application or platforms open source? So as we know, right, most companies will develop programs or applications or platforms, right? They want to keep it as in private secret. So how could we incentivize them to adopt open source?
Oh, I guess it's a big topic because you know that, I mean, different the companies, they have the different purpose to use it or not. So I guess if they want to make their, the closed source application become open source, you need to talk with their leaders and to share what I said before, that if you open source your project, what's the benefits you can get from open source? Because you know that as a leadership, they don't care about what the technology or the stuff, they just care about the business part. So, you need to persuade them that, hey, if you open source this project, then you can get more branding or market or reputation for your company, right? And that will easier for you to hire more high talents for your company, all of the benefits. So maybe that can persuade them, open source their projects. Yeah.
Sure. I think since we're running out short of time, I think, Sebastian, I think it'd be good to connect with Trista and then continue the discussion offline. That's a valid question, because if I'm actually running a company, the commercial side of things, the intellectual property, I think would be two of the biggest challenges I think we need to address before we jump into, say, investing or even go open source for some of the products that we have actually developed. Again, Trista, thank you so much. I think that's a very compelling sharing on why open source is the way forward. Really thank you for joining our session tonight, or should I say this evening and this morning, for those who have just joined on different time zone. Thank you, Trista. Really appreciate it. We hope to have you back here again on our next session or even our next event. Very insightful in sharing.
Thank you.
Trista,
bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys. We will. Thank you. Bye, everyone. We will stop recording and please join the next session, which is starting on the hour as well. All right, Trista. Thank you. Have a good evening ahead. Thank you.